Pearson Airport is asking the federal government to help it cut down on delays for travelers. Some passengers have been waiting in line for hours to board their flights. Officials are blaming staffing shortages and a resurgence in travel demand. Meanwhile, more long lines at passport offices today. This was the line outside the passport office at Central Parkway Mall in Mississauga before it opened this morning. Renewal times have skyrocketed since the government loosened travel restrictions. Joining us live tonight is Martin Firestone, president of Travel Secure Incorporated, along with Jessica Ng, director of policy and government relations for the Tourism Industry Association of Ontario. Martin, let's begin with you. What accounts for all the chaos? Why can't staffing levels keep up as demand surges again?
We can't forget that 2.5 to 3 years ago, travel was over. Nobody was there. Employees were laid off. And basically, now with restrictions lifted and people feeling good again about traveling, you just can't press a button and get everybody back. So the bottom line is there are not enough people to accommodate the growth in travel right now, and that's the problem we're facing.
And so, Jessica, the GTAA is calling for Ottawa to step in here. How specifically can they help, and what are the demands?
So, in addition to those staffing challenges, one of the things we're seeing is those legacy public health requirements from the pandemic. And so, in order to alleviate these travel barriers, we need to work with federal partners to eliminate or streamline these inbound legacy public health requirements, eliminate that random testing on arrival at Canadian airports that's, making those lines on arrival a lot longer, deterring visitors from traveling in Ontario.
So Jessica, touching on that a bit more about these COVID requirements, how sustainable is it as travel continues to pick up, I'm assuming through the summer months when many more people travel, to still have these COVID requirements in place?
It's not sustainable, Scott. What we're seeing, what we're hearing is that it's taking up to 3 hours at sometimes to deboard planes on international arrivals. Passengers have been held on there for a lot longer than they should be. One passenger said that it took about 4 hours to clear customs to deboard, and it took longer than the amount of time it took to fly from LA to Pearson. Wow. And so it's staggering. And these random testing requirements as well, it's making it a lot costlier for families to plan travel in Ontario. It's making it a lot costlier. And so at the end of the day, it's tourism businesses in Ontario that are losing out on a lot of business, and it's hampering their economic recovery.
So Martin, not only the lines at the airports, we saw those long lines at passport offices. What if you're a family and you need to get your passport renewed now? You're starting to make travel plans, or you have a firm date, but you're not, and now you're seeing these delays. What options do families have here?
I mean, there is the ability to make an appointment. Again, how quick, that's the problem. Wait in line, get in there, pay extra fees for an express service. But if I was giving any advice, I would not plan a trip till I have that passport in my hand, because sadly, from an insurance perspective, there is no insurance to cover cancellation for a trip because your passport didn't arrive in time, or I was waiting in a long line and didn't make the plane. So at the end of the day, I'm telling everyone, don't buy your ticket yet. Plan your deposits, pay your monies yet till you have a passport in your hand, or you may be stuck with no trip.
So Martin, is it the same thing as long lines at the airport, the long line to get your passport renewed? Is it the same situation where it's just not enough people?
I don't see staffing as the main issue on the passport, and you have to think about it. I bet you people put their passports away and never checked them for the last 2.5, 3 years. Now they plan a trip, go to get them, much like an expired license plate. Oh, it expired. Or remember, with passports, 6 months or less, it might as well be expired because you can't use it if it's 6 months or less. So with that in mind, you are in a problem. You didn't know, you didn't realize it. Nexus, the same thing. It may have expired. So that's the problem we're facing, is that they didn't realize it's expired.
Now, Jessica, the Travel Industry Association of Ontario is reporting deep concern from businesses that rely on the travel industry. In a recent survey, nearly half of respondents reporting they're very concerned about the future of the industry as a whole, and more than half of tourism businesses say they're still generating less than half of their usual pre-pandemic revenue. So what does the industry need to turn it around for the businesses that rely on these tourists?
So, you're absolutely right, Scott. So this survey that we conducted in April, heading into the election, we saw that tourism is still at a critical point in recovery. We still have those economic barriers you mentioned. We still have the labor crisis that predated COVID, but it's been worsened by COVID. We still have those barriers to travel that we're seeing at Pearson, we're seeing at airports across the country. And so, it just serves to highlight just because we've reopened doesn't mean that our tourism industry has fully recovered yet. And so we need the support of the next government, of political partners to overcome these obstacles so that our businesses can leverage those opportunities that are available to hire more Ontarians, ramp up operations, welcome visitors back to those maiden Ontario experiences, and continue being a critical driver of our economy. And so that's why we've launched today OntarioNeedsTourism.ca, which is a nonpartisan election website in which we want to make sure that every candidate vying for election understands how important the tourism industry is in Ontario, why it's so important to continue supporting our recovery, getting our recovery right, because ultimately we are a $36 billion industry in this province. We employ 400,000 workers. We are larger than forestry, mining, and agriculture combined.
So definitely a very key election issue here. So Martin, bottom line, what's your best advice for travelers heading to the airport? They've finally got through the line. They have their passport. They have their ticket. How much time should people give themselves now going to the airport?
You're being told 2 hours domestic, 3 hours international. I think you have to go even farther ahead as far as that goes and go 3 to 4 hours. I mean, what's the worst case scenario? You end up getting there and you're all through the line and then you're just sitting. It's far better than ever risk missing that flight, because that plane will leave with you or without you.
It does make for a long day of traveling, to say the least. Martin Firestone and Jessica Ng, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks so much, Scott.